All right. Here we go. Back again on the other side of the coin. Guys, you know what? You know when the Arsenal game happened and we did this post-match, I was angry. I was filthy for the performance. This one, honestly, I'm just numb to it now. I'm like, I find it funny because that performance, I don't know, deep down, I think I kind of felt we might lose. But to get schooled in that manner really showed how how crazy this situation is at the moment. So, look, before we get into the whole details of the game, boys, I just want to introduce everyone that will join down the track and who has joined so far. I've got Jimmy here and I've got Jonathan. First of all, Jimmy, how you doing? First time in the show. What's happening, my man?
Yeah, would have rather had better circumstances, but thanks for having me on. And a bit deflated, can't lie. Don't think that there's any other word to describe what we just saw.
No,
So yeah,
absolutely.
could have been better circumstances, but good to be here.
No, absolutely, man. I'll get both of you guys to give you opening statements, but first of all, Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Didn't want the first one like this that we said we're going to do more match reviews together to start like this. But I kind of, before delving into it, I did kind of expect, not this manner, but I did expect us to lose. So it's just very disappointing. I just wanted the right attitude and mentality, and I didn't see that today.
Fair enough. Let's just get some opening statements on this particular match from all of us before we get into the whole details of the match. First of all, Jimmy, man, your thoughts, man. We were talking during the match, sort of halftime. I said, "How you feeling?" And you said, "Livid." You also asked me, does Lamps have to go now? But it's up to you whether where you stand in that. But I just want to know initially just some thoughts about this particular match from your side. Just some initial thoughts, how you feel about this particular match.
Well, I mean, how can you feel? It's just, as you said, that I wrote during halftime was just, right after halftime, livid, because there was a lot of things that just didn't go as we expected them after we saw the lineup. I mean, I was happy with that lineup, and I thought, well, we might actually give this game a real go. But we just continued where we left off in recent weeks, and no improvement. Once again, and as I've also tweeted out, I can't see a system, and that's the most worrying thing.
Oh, have we lost Jimmy
nowadays? But yeah. Sorry. We've become accustomed to some individual horror performances nowadays, and it was just so sloppy, and that was as it was. But Mondi being not too good on those first two goals just emphasizes that although we had such a great few weeks or months of the season, it's just gradually been going downhill, and December's been shambolic, and I just can't see where we go from here. And that might sound very pessimistic, but we don't seem to have a system apart from crossing the ball in. There's no intensity. There's just sloppiness all over. Heads just hang immediately after that first goal, and it's just all round. I don't know. It's just where do you go from there? And you have to ask yourselves, how can Lampard change things up so that we improve? And
no, man, completely understand. There's a lot of big questions that needs to be asked here, and I'll go to Jonathan as well to hear his opening statements about this particular match. Jonathan, your thoughts?
As I said, I wasn't massively confident in this game. I would have taken a draw. I would have snapped your hand off for that. You look at the team sheet. I was very surprised to see Ziyech start because obviously he's not match sharp. I was very surprised to see Werner at centre forward. There's a lot of people that were saying they wanted him because they thought they'd be able to counter, but that's if you set up correctly. And I just don't really understand what Lampard's game plan was today. Was it the Boston midfield? Because we certainly didn't do that. Was it to get the wing backs forward, because we certainly didn't do that enough, Chilwell at times, or was it to get the wingers running at Man City, because we didn't test their right or left back at all, really. Werner, every time he got on the ball, no anticipation, no confidence on the ball. First touch is not there.
He looked bad again.
There was, I think, 10 or 15 minutes just before Man City really turned the screw. Ball in the box from Ziyech, and Werner was in a left wing position, and it just goes 5-6 yards in front of him. I'm not just digging him out because it was poor all around, but for me, I just wanted to, because I expected us to get a negative result. I count a negative result for a draw because we needed a win, but it was just the manner that we lost. I tweeted it was men versus boys. I saw you did the same, Miz. It was just embarrassing at times.
Yeah, man. My opening statement would be similar to both of you guys, man. Look, I was deflated after the Arsenal loss. Honestly, I still can't get that out of my system, losing to a B team, probably even a C team, Arsenal, and the way we played and the way we got schooled by Arteta in that game. And then I had massive questions about Frank Lampard from that. I mean, obviously we weren't playing well before that, and I was questioning, as what Jimmy said, in regards to his style. It looks like it's predominantly just crossing. We don't seem to penetrate through the middle. But that game against Arsenal just really, really blew my mind. And obviously this game, it was, as you said, Jonathan, it's men versus boys, kids, to be honest. Like City at times just toyed with us. And I tweeted several times throughout the match that whenever they're in defense or in offense, they look so structured, so organized, and every player is in the right position. And it's like a chess piece. They're moving up forward together. They're going back together. Yeah. They know when to press. How crazy is their pressing compared to ours? I had to giggle every time we pressed. I was like, "That just stop, just stop. Don't press," because that's funny. Because you look at how City today showed us, boys, how to counter-attack with pace and how to play with possession-based football. It was a perfect balance between the two. It wasn't like they were completely sitting back or they were completely with possession. They just absolutely schooled us throughout the match. And I'm going to get to you guys and get your statements down the track in regards to Frank's situation. But let's now talk about the lineup. Let's actually go into details about the match. Jimmy, when you first saw the lineup, I mean, personally, when I saw the lineup, I thought, okay, fair enough, that's decent. I didn't mind that lineup at all because Reece James is injured, Azpilicueta started, Ziyech started. I was absolutely ecstatic, but looking back, hindsight now, I don't think he was ready for this match. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi looked far more zippier when he came into the second half. Obviously, much well-deserved goal. Great work that we did over there with Havertz. But Jimmy, what was your thoughts when you saw the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, as I already said, generally I was quite happy with that, and I thought, well, we could really bring the game to them at home. But in my preferred lineup that I had before the game, Callum Hudson-Odoi was in it because, on the whole, he deserves to currently be playing, and that's one of the main quarrels I have with Frank Lampard. He always says players should be playing on merit. That's what he goes after. It's not currently happening, so that's why I was also not really happy with Timo Werner at centre forward. If you want to be playing players on merit, then Olivier Giroud should have started.
Yeah.
Given I also had Werner down the middle because I just really wanted to see that with Callum Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic, but it didn't work out. And against City, maybe you could argue would have been the better choice. So against someone that's more compact at the back. So the lineup. In midfield, I don't know who else we could have played. Havertz isn't really too high on confidence, so Kovacic made sense. But my God, they all had a dreadful game today, each one of them. So yeah, I don't know. You say the lineup was good. What else? That is something that I can say to Frank Lampard. He couldn't have done much more apart from attack. So everything else was set in stone, really.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That midfield, just like you, Jimmy, when I saw that, I was like, I don't think we could have had a better. Like, I actually had Kai Havertz, but I can understand why Frank went with that midfield and not Kai Havertz. As you said, probably not in form, but then, was Werner in form? And then again, I had Werner as well. So, at the end of the day, you really can't complain too much. Jonathan, your thoughts about the lineup, man?
Some really interesting comments, by the way, that I'm reading through. Yes, so keep them coming, as Miz said. For me, yeah, I thought it was the team I expected. I spoke about it I think it was yesterday when we had our video, Miz. I said, why don't we try some youngsters? I tweeted it out and I got cascaded because, I had Andrew in and Gilmore in an alternative 11. I did say that I was expecting a team like this, obviously not Werner and Ziyech.
You did.
When I saw it, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised at those two only, Werner and Ziyech, as Jimmy said. I'm happy for Werner to start centre forward if we play to his strengths, and we didn't do that today. But he just looks lost on confidence anyway. So I don't even think if we played to his style that he would have even been relevant anyway. So yeah, I think Giroud should have started on hindsight, and Hudson-Odoi certainly looked brighter. But you make these decisions as a manager, and you have to live and die by them. And Lampard doesn't make any changes at half time when he realised it's not working. We're being overrun in the midfield. It's fine to set up as a 4-3-3. That seems to be the way we're going. And as I said, that's the 11 most of us would want or pick. But when it's not working, you have to change it. And instead of standing on the sidelines with your arms crossed and looking a bit dumbfounded, Lampard gets the players warming up. And then there's no Giroud still the entire game. I know we bring Ziyech off, so there's lack of crosses. But just I don't get the timing of the subs. I don't get the subs he's made. I don't understand why he's so rigid in this 4-3-3 now and he can't change it when we clearly need to. So, yeah, I say I'm deviating a little bit. So 11 was good, but it needed changing and it wasn't done by Lampard.
Yeah, now, you know what? I remember you saying that. I know we all laughed about it when you said Teenage Reed, Billy Gilmore. But looking back, probably would have been a nice wake-up call for the rest of the team with some of the kids, and perhaps they might have even provided some sort of fire. But let's talk about the first half, guys. I'll go to Jimmy again. Man,
Fantastic.
First 10 minutes, Jimmy, I was like, okay, not bad. We were looking good. Ziyech had a lot of the ball. We were bombing in the crosses, and the passing was crisp the first 10 minutes. And we looked like we want to take the game to them. But maybe that was false hope. Maybe that was just City just saying, okay, let's just see for the first 10 minutes, get used to it. And then you could see the City passing range and their movement and the way they're just maneuvering everything around the pitch. And surely enough, you could see it after the 10 minutes that they were going to score a goal. And the first goal as well. As I recall, how did they score the first goal? Was it Foden or no? That was Gundogan. Gundogan scored the first goal. How they took it wide. Aspilicueta just got destroyed that whole half by Foden, to be honest. And then obviously Gundogan scores, and then from there on it was just massacre, absolute massacre. Jimmy, your thoughts about the first half, man?
I don't think one can actually really sum that up in words. If from an emotional point of view, so it was terrible. I mean, shambolic, absolutely ridiculous, atrocious. Take your pick. I mean. Because I just read in a comment, I don't think that even if we would have had, for example, a Declan Rice with his grit, with his captain potential, it wouldn't have helped. It just felt completely lost, that team, and it was kind of a false hope that was being given to us fans in those first few minutes or 15 minutes, because I agree with you. I feel like they just were letting us come, feeling us out. What can they throw at us, and they were nevertheless in control the whole time, and that's the kind of thing that we're lacking, a mentality. Even if we would have scored theoretically in those first 10 minutes, I would not have put it past them to say, okay, brush it off and we'll just go again, and they would have probably still won. And that's the kind of thing that isn't the case. We concede that first goal by Gundogan, heads drop. That's it. And you just know immediately, okay, this is game over. And it saddens me so much to say that. Game over after 1-0. I mean, what the hell? You shouldn't be saying that as a Chelsea fan.
Well, 80 minutes or so.
That's not our mentality. Yeah. And it's a very, very, very sobering feeling, isn't it? I mean, you just felt from that point onwards where Gundogan scored, we're not going to really get back into this. We're not going to get back into this. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that first half was probably the worst half of football I saw this season. Then again, we've been saying this
Many times.
every other game for the past 4 weeks. So yeah, I don't know. That first half was just, in short, unacceptable.
No, absolutely, man. Jonathan, I'm just trying to recall the first half. I'm trying to forget it, but trying to recall it for this review. There was several moments where I was just looking at City and going, wow. Like, I don't even know if we were poor, but there were certain instances where they were just magnificent. The way they moved the ball around. Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling, Foden, Gundogan, so good. Obviously, we talked about the first goal. Second goal as well, the Foden one, how I think they steal the ball and they go through Azpilicueta's side. Was it Sterling? Was it Kevin De Bruyne? I can't quite remember. Puts the ball nicely, slides it through for Foden. Foden finishes brilliantly. Your thoughts on the first half, man? And just let me know, what do you think about the Mendy first shot on Gundogan? Could he have saved that? And also speak a little bit about Foden, which we will talk about down the track. I did mention during halftime that Foden is miles ahead than any of our youth players that we have. His quality is immense. But yeah, your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, I tweeted this. I said it was the front three that all Chelsea fans wanted to see. They wanted that the front three to light up the game, and it was Man City's front three that was scintillating. The movement, the pace, the passing was on point, and Gundogan was constantly joining the attack and providing a foil. And this is where the 4-3 doesn't work, because Kante can't mark, and he does struggle, and that's where he needs an extra partner. Which Lampard didn't give him at all during the game. And then Kante
you said this against Arsenal as well. You said this against Arsenal game.
I sound like a broken record, because I keep saying that Lampard needs to affect games. I keep saying that he needs to react to the way teams play against us. And Guardiola was spot on with his tactics today. Yes, it took 5-10 minutes for them to get going. But those three interchanged position brilliantly. De Bruyne played superb as a centre forward and schooled Werner as to how to play. They gave us a scare with the De Bruyne miss, which he probably should have put in the back of the net. And then they thought, okay, well, if this is going to be this easy, then we'll just keep doing this. We'll just keep cutting through you at will. And they did that throughout the first half. They got 3 goals, which were really well worked, but they didn't have to work that hard for them. The first one was really good from Gundogan. The way he takes that touch that doesn't allow the defender to settle and even get a chance at blocking. And Mendy's probably unsighted. And again, because he's taking the shot so quickly, Mendy gets a hand to it. But I'm not going to say it's on Mendy. I think it's good play, and we're not close enough to Gundogan.
That's the thing with City, isn't it, Jonathan? They do everything so quick. Everything is quick. It's not like us, we're just looking around and radioing around. Like, everything is quick. It's
incisive. I mean, there was a few times where they zipped the ball in. I think it was the second goal where they zipped the ball in so quickly, and it was such a good touch. And they just move it on. It's triangles. They always have 1, 2, 3 options available every time someone's on the ball, and it makes such a difference. Because Chelsea have one maximum at time. During this game, it was just a case in the first half of damage limitation, which is ridiculous to say. As Jimmy said, it's embarrassing. It wasn't good enough. But forget all of this. We could have had a penalty or like a free kick, I guess, with Werner going down on after Rodri. That another day that goes our way. Yeah. And we could have maybe been a goal up, which would have been mental when you think about it. But I say they just turned it on at will. Foden, Sterling, De Bruyne, and I say Gundogan was absolutely superb today. And he just breached that midfield at will. Kovacic and Mount, instead of helping the fullbacks, where your fullbacks are being pinned back, and it's a massive thing for Chelsea. We put balls into the box, our fullbacks go forward, and when they're pinned back, it takes most of our armory out. And instead of Mount and Kovacic dropping and trying to, when Sterling or Foden comes in field and picking them up, they just let them go. And that's it was always going to be done for pace by Foden. And the second goal was just great pass from De Bruyne, and Foden's at the near post thinking, oh, all right, I'll just slot it in.
That was a sweet finish from Foden, man. That was a sweet finish.
He's a clever player, and why he doesn't play much as much as I feel he should under Guardiola.
I think he does now. I think he does now.
He does more, but even so, I mean, when Silva left, I thought he'd be a real shining light for them, and he does play, but it just shows the quality that Man City had. They have a few players out with COVID, and they still can field an unbelievable squad. And in between that, before the third goal, there was actually a really nice move from Werner and Pulisic, and Pulisic delayed the shot, and that could have been, a goal as well. So, yeah, it's really difficult to take. The third goal really summed it up for me. I mean, I don't want to say it's a bad pass from Kante, because it's a cross from us, it's a counter attack, and Sterling's through on goal. Mendy doesn't know whether to come or go, and the first player that comes.
We've seen Kante do that a couple of times now.
A few times, and that needs to change. He needs to either not be the last man back, or we stick two back there. And Sterling delayed. Mendy, as I said, wasn't very good for Mendy. I mean, he made Sterling turn back, but the first player that joined that attack wasn't a Chelsea player busting their ass to get back. It was Phil Foden. That's not good enough. I'm sorry. Yeah. You should be busting your ass. We're 2-0 down. Sterling, all he's got to do is pass it back. Obviously, he hits the post. And again, it shows the quality. De Bruyne takes a lovely touch and slots it in the bottom corner. Mendy, Kante for me, not good there. I know I keep blabbing on, so I'll let one of you guys talk. But yeah, just those three goals. I was numb. I think you said it earlier, Miz. I was numb. I didn't react to any of the goals. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm going to turn it off, do the review, and forget about it and get on with my life, because Chelsea are causing me too much hassle nowadays.
Yeah, now you know what, boys. Honestly, after the second goal, as Jimmy said from the get-go, after the first goal, I knew this was going to be a landslide, because I could see the momentum shifting, and it's sad to see that a Chelsea team from yesterday's, how we used to see it, during the Roman period, the early days, or even the earlier on in the last decade, that we saw whenever we would be down, we always had a fight and we'd come back. But these days, it feels like when you're down, especially against the big teams, I'm talking about the big teams, when you're down, it feels like we're not going to come back. And especially this match, after the first goal, I was like, I think get ready to be schooled. And we got schooled. In the first half, I think it really could have been 4 or 5-0, to be honest. City were very, very nice to us to keep it to 3-0. So thank you to City and all the City fans to be nice to us like that. Jimmy, let's talk about the second half. Not really too much to talk about the second half, because I want to get to the player analysis and then obviously the big topic of Lampard in or Lampard out. But second half, honestly, Jimmy, I'm not sure about you. I tuned out. I was just preparing the review. I was preparing the StreamYard thing. I was just getting everything ready for you guys. I just had the game open on the side. I just didn't feel like watching that match at all. We didn't do too much, to be honest. I know you've mentioned just before we went live that someone apparently tweeted that, that was a much better second half from us. Please, anyone that is watching this right now and whoever is on, do not get fooled one bit. We did not have a good second half. It's City just going to, taking it easy, went to sleep for a little bit because they had 3 up in their bag. So, Jimmy, from your point of view, man, I mean, how was the second half?
I don't think there's really much to say about the second half. Yeah, we got one back, but it was right at the death, and City had taken the foot off the pedal. They'd be in first gear at best, and we still couldn't find a way through. Yes, we did then get that consolation goal, but that was more a present than anything else. I think they really felt sorry for us at that point. But to be fair, it was a very well worked goal, and it just showed the chemistry between Kai Havertz and Callum Hudson-Odoi. Maybe one can make an argument that both should have started, but at the very least, Callum Hudson-Odoi should have started. Hakim Ziyech wasn't anywhere near fit enough yet. But anyway, that second half, in a nutshell, Timo Werner, he tackled the corner flag. So I think that really does show what happened to us today. It sums it up. And sure, you could say we stabilized things a bit, but then again, every time they did come at us, we looked shaky. And I didn't trust our defense. And that's really saddening, because I think that the back four that we had today, and excluding Reece James, who's injured, has done so well this season. But then again, against good opposition, we've struggled, and maybe that's been somewhat blinding because we have had such a shambolic defense for so long now that we'll take anything that's near reasonable or decent. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's where Kepa, my God, Mondi made some good saves.
We are finished.
Yeah. No, Mondi made some great saves, and I thought that despite not being too good or looking too good on that first goal, he redeemed himself in a way that he saved us from losing even higher. Yeah. So I don't agree with people saying, "Oh, he's a fraud. He's just as bad as Kepa," and that was also tweeted out, which is ridiculous because I mean, you know, he's a bit low on confidence since that Everton mistake, but I thought that he did well overall. And yeah, one of the very few that you'd probably give a halfway decent rating overall. Otherwise, in that second half, it was good to see Billy Gilmour come on, but you know, he hasn't been his electric self from the last year. He did have a very, very tough injury that he has to overcome. Maybe get back to full fitness. I don't know. But it's good to see him on. Just second half, my main point of criticism is that the substitutions were beyond a joke. That they came when they did far too late. I mean, even the pundits that are saying, "Oh, you know, you're not allowed to sack Lampard and so on," which is fine. But you know, even they said that's dodgy. That's dodgy. That I mean, that I do not understand why. And that's where, as a player, Frank Lampard was always very stubborn, which helped him and made him a great player because that you need that attitude. But as a coach, being that rigid and saying, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give. I can't. There's no argument in this world, if you're an armchair manager or not, a real one, that would validate saying, "Oh well, that half was okay.
Horrible.
I won't bring in the substitution because you need subs to shake things up at times." And we were crying out for a focal point up front, and you bring on Olivier Giroud at halftime. There is no valid argument in the world that Frank Lampard could bring in his press conference, his post-match press conference, that would have me saying, oh, "Okay, I understand that." Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe if he says Olivier Giroud broken his leg while walking up the stairs, I don't know. That would be the only valid argument for me because there's none. That really, really, that got me very worked up because I couldn't understand that. So that would be my main takeaway from a very dull second half, that the substitutions were just atrocious.
I have to agree with you, honestly. I want to go to Jonathan. This is a very, very good point that Jimmy has brought up. Let's talk about a little bit about this. I was shocked that at 3-0 down at halftime that we didn't make any change. I think Jimmy has made a really good point in the sense that Werner wasn't working. We could see he wasn't working. So let's get Giroud on, or let's get Tammy on, whoever. Let's get
focal point.
Yeah, let's get a focal point and just go route one. I don't know. Get Calamuton-Odoi on a little bit earlier and give him that time to impose himself in the match. Ziyech, I don't know. Look, I don't want to blame Ziyech. He's been back from injury literally like for 2 minutes. So, Jonathan, your thoughts that Frank just allowed that to continue? Like, what was he expecting from the same team from halftime? What was he thinking was going to happen in the second half?
Yeah, my thoughts, continued thoughts about how Lampard doesn't react. You don't make a sub at halftime. You say, "Okay, guys, that's okay. Same again." Yeah. Without you changing it and you making, putting your authority down and saying, "This isn't good enough, boys. We're changing this, this, and this. You have to play like this, or you're not going to play." And that's why second half we came out and nothing really changed. Man City showed how to game manage in a situation. Any team that's 2-3-0 up that wants to kill a game off, Man City showed you exactly how to do that today. They may have had slightly less possession than us today if you look at the stats. They may have made less passes, but that doesn't say anything into the game. They controlled the game from start to finish. They dictated the tempo. When they wanted to play football, they played football. And when they wanted to sit off and just see the game out, he took off his 3 goal scorers, Guardiola. That's how comfortable it was. His three of the most potent players on the pitch, he took them off. And Lampard made subs too late, didn't change the system. I think Kante was injured, so that doesn't really help. But it's interesting. I don't normally listen to commentary and Sky Sports. I don't enjoy listening to. But Gary Neville made a very good point where he said Lampard's got players that he likes and players that he's signed. And I think he's starting to live and die too much by the players he's signed, too much faith, especially in Timo Werner. Take him off and bring Giroud on. I don't know what he has against Giroud. He only seems to play him when he really has to. But that guy's shown that when he plays, he performs. He had the best minutes for goals ratio in 2020 in the Premier League. And we persist to a player that's out of form. I'm not knocking Werner or someone like Havertz, because I think both of them will come good for Chelsea. A lot of the signings we've made are long-term signings. They're not signings that are going to make an instant impact now and be the best player in the Premier League, but they're players that are, over the long period of this project that Chelsea are building, they will come good. But Havertz, it was good to see him come off the bench and make the impact with the assist. But my issue with that goal is, why is Werner not getting on the end of that? Hudson-Odoi, okay, maybe because it's a little bit in front of him. Why is Werner not busting his ass to get there and get a touch on that, put that in the back of the net? Because if I was a striker and I was hungry for goals, I would be doing that. I wouldn't be just letting it go to Hudson-Odoi for him to slot it in. Great finish and great that he got to the attack. But for me, I used to be a striker. I want that goal. I'd be annoyed that Hudson-Odoi got the end of it and not for me. I don't know who Havertz intends that for. But look, main issue today with the second half is, how many times have we actually test Stefan? 2 shots on target, one of them was the goal. He's a rookie keeper. He made that mistake earlier in the half where he picked it up from a back pass. He didn't get tested. He must have come into this game nervous, thinking it was our Premier League debut against Chelsea, away from home, in a big game where we're missing players. He's probably not even broken a sweat. I reckon
we did not test him one bit.
Yeah, he's not going to watch his kit, the kit man. He literally did not do anything. He didn't get on the floor, nothing, because we didn't test him, and that is not good enough.
Great point, John.
For me, and I said this again in a tweet yesterday or today, shoot. If you don't shoot, you're not going to score. How many times did Man City shoot today?
Every opportunity they got, they took a punt at it. And this is the thing, we've talked about this plenty of times. Let's talk about this now. Actually, let's talk about the whole Frank Lampard thing before we talk about some player stuff down the track, and we'll take some comments as well, boys. Here's my thoughts on Frank Lampard. I've said this a couple of weeks ago that I don't think he's tactically smart enough to win us a league. Not this time. Maybe not for another 6-7 years if we want to wait around that long. Maybe if he gets ever an opportunity down the track to come back again for the second time, perhaps. But I honestly, his substitutions, we've touched on, his in-game management, he could see exactly what City was trying to do. He didn't try to change anything. Sit low then. Play on the counter. When you see City are playing such in an exquisite manner, just drop deep. Shut up shop after the 1-0. And basically what I'm trying to say, just do something different. Don't just continue on with the same philosophy, same thing, because you're going to get done. So tactically, boys, I don't think he's fit enough to get us to win a league down the track. Forget this season. Obviously, that's not happening. Or even next season. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the future. I think he's good enough to get us a top 4, perhaps. He has shown us last season that he's good enough to get top 4. So if we want top 4, perhaps he could squeeze that. This season, it's going to be even hard. Even top 4 is going to be difficult. You got teams like Leicester. You got teams like Aston Villa playing such ball. Southampton is playing much better than us. So, Jimmy, look, I've never been a manager out, man. So I'm not going to be from here a manager out. I always like to see the manager come back. But I'm just stating the truth to our fan base and everyone that's logged on here. 47 people logged on right now watching this. Guys, please smash that like button while you're here. But to the 47 that are here, I'm just going to say that he's not good enough to win the league. So if we can accept that, fair enough, keep him. If we can't accept that, then he's got to go. Jimmy, your thoughts on Frank Lampard?
Well, I mean, I think the good thing is that regardless of whether one is Lampard in or Lampard out, it seems as if that decision will be taken from us anyway, according to the latest reports by Liam Twomey, where one is already actively looking for a plan B or a new manager anyway.
Is this legit? So Liam Twomey's actually tweeted that out?
Yes, legit. There is an article up, or that went up more or less after the game.
Was it the Athletic?
Sorry?
Was it on the Athletic?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there's an article on The Athletic that went up imminently after the game where he's basically saying, well, Chelsea's already actively looking for a replacement. So, I mean, I think the thing is about Frank Lampard is, as I already said, he's very rigid. He's very stubborn. He does it his way. He came out basically already last season saying he wants players to start on merit. That is something that he shouldn't have said. If he doesn't say that, fine. You know, he has his favourites like Jose Mourinho had, or still has, really. Hello, Dele Alli. But the thing is that you have then this Chelsea squad where there are clearly players out of form, and he's always again and again starting them. And I mean, this is a bit of a cliche nowadays with that quote of, you know, the definition of insanity. It's just very fitting because the Timo Werner debate it's been raging on for a long time. He didn't start on the wing today, which is good, but you know, it took him far too long to see that. And anyone who watched a little bit of Bundesliga, Timo Werner, will have been able to tell you that that is not the position that you want him to play.
You watch Bundesliga. I know you watch Bundesliga.
I watch, you know, it's more in Austria. You have to, you know, you don't watch the Austrian Bundesliga, although Salzburg, you know, but that's a different topic. Anyway, the point is, you watch a lot of Bundesliga here, and Leipzig is one of those teams that's been up and coming. And of course, Timo Werner. Everyone had heard of Timo Werner last year, at the latest in the Champions League, and anyone who watched a few games, and you'd expect our scouting department or Frank Lampard to have done that, will have known that Timo Werner needs assistance up front. You play him either as a striker with someone very close to him. For example, if you play 4-2-3-1, you have Havertz in that central position, play not too far from him so that they can play off each other. And he needs that to really live up to his full potential. And the problem is, at the start, he was very, very high on confidence. After that season, he wasn't always scoring, but nevertheless, he gave it his all. And since he had that run of games where he was playing constantly on the left, it's robbed him of his confidence. And that, you can only fault Frank Lampard for that. You know, one of the highest scoring players not in the league, but in Europe last year. He's been robbed of his confidence for being played out of position on a constant basis, and that is down to Frank Lampard, and that is led back to his stubbornness, and you know, that's going to be his downfall. It's sad to say, but you have to differentiate between Frank Lampard the player and Frank Lampard the manager, and if you can't, then you know, that's too bad for you. But if you want to be a realistic person, and you should be, then you have to see that he is currently out of his depth. And one thing that I will say is, to end things on Frank Lampard from me for now, is that an argument that can be made for giving him more time is, everyone was saying Mikel Arteta out. He's not good enough. He's out of his depth. And look, I mean, typical that it's us to give them a lifeline. I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to swear, but to give them a lifeline, you know, and now they're winning left, right, and centre.
They are playing some scintillating football.
Yeah, out of the blue, and that was, you know, at a point where Mikel Arteta was already a dead man walking. So you could bring that argument to Frank Lampard, but then again, the circumstances are different because we spent a buckload of money, and he has all the players at his disposal that he would need. Arteta does not. So, you know, the team's had time to gel. It hasn't. And that has to be led back to the manager.
100%. Jonathan, before I go to you, I just want to bring back a particular comment. I know you'll remember this. We did a review off the back of that Arsenal game when Tom said, he was here, and he said, all the games that Arsenal lost in that time frame under Arteta, teams had to actually work hard to get that win. Arsenal just didn't bend over backwards to let other teams just do them from the back. Do you know what I mean? Like, they actually had to work hard. It seems like for us in the last few matches, the ones that we've lost, teams really didn't have to work too hard against us. I mean, City looked like at times it was just a training session and they just absolutely annihilated us. Everton, just sat deep, got the lead and just sat deep, just did what they had to do, the basics. Wolves, perhaps, even first half, I remember you telling me, we had that review together, that they just watched, and then second half they really ignited and they went at us. Yeah, man. What's your thoughts on Frank Lampard and all the rumors that's happening now with Liam Toomey? There was a link up from Data saying that there is an article from Athletic. You've been vocal about Frank Lampard. You have mentioned about his deficiencies and whatnot, but you've backed him. But where do you kind of stand now in regards to the whole situation where our team's going after we spent £250 million pounds?
It's becoming very hard to back him. The thing is, say we were winning and we were playing okay, and I was still criticising him for the decision he'd made and for personnel that he was picking. So the fact that it's now bad and we're not in very good form, I'm not really too surprised, because I kind of envisaged this. It was never going to be the sweet fairy tale season that everyone wanted it to be after all the signings we've made. It was always going to be a struggle. Liverpool are clearly one of the best teams in the league. And Man City, again, showed how dominant they could be today. They were doing this to teams for years under Pep. Several games happened like this. And it's just a shock that, they've hit form with a completely changed team, with a team that Chelsea thought, okay, it should be a little bit easier today. Well, it certainly wasn't. And Guardiola's out there barking orders on the touchline and getting his men in order. And as I said earlier, Frank Lampard, for me, I'm not going to say clueless. I think that's a bit harsh, but he doesn't have the nous to change it when needed. And that's the most worrying thing. So yeah, for me, I'm not going to say in or out anymore. I'm just going to sit on the fence, because I think as the Athletic has said, I've just very quickly read the article. It says that Chelsea may leave him to the end of the season. It may be that they change him now, but certainly some players don't look to be playing for him. And I think today, look, there's no crowds. Some teams feel under pressure when, you've got 40,000 people in the stadium and they're getting on your back because I've been at Stamford Bridge where they lose the ball and, for goodness sake, and you hear jeers and boos and, the manager's getting booed, the players are getting booed. The players don't have any of that. So when they're on the ball, there's just silence. There's no pressure from the outside. Yes, they have it in their head from probably Lampard and the media, but imminently at that moment in time when they're on the ball, there's no crowd to impact that game. And yes, maybe that's a hindrance because it's not lifting the team, because maybe we could really do with that, some fans getting behind the players when they're on the pitch, but there's no added pressure from the crowd. So I just can't understand why Chelsea just don't play with some freedom. And that's why I suggested the youngsters, or why I suggest a change of formation. It's fine to have a style of play under Lampard. We need that, because we need teams to start going, okay, Chelsea play like this, or we need to counter this aspect of their game, that aspect of the game. But Lampard's got to be able to change it. You can't just be live and die by one formation and one set of players. And as I said, I stand by the fact that Andrew wouldn't have done any worse today. And Gilmore came on and it was always going to be hard for him, because we were chasing the game and he was trying to push forward the game. And you've got 2 or 3 players in space and the other midfielders don't help. So Kovacic would have gone off, I think, if Kante hadn't have done. So yeah, for me, it's, I'd say as always, I digress, but for me, it's Lampard is on very thin ice with a lot of fans, and I think everyone's patience is starting to run out. But okay, hypothetically, I've been reading the comments as I always do. The video, I obviously go on Twitter quite a lot, and I gauge fans' moods. For me, as I said, I'm going to switch off from this review and just get on with my day and start next week, because I'm not going to lose any more sleep over Chelsea. But if we sack him right now, who do you bring in? Because Poch has just gone to PSG. Okay, Tuchel, Allegri, the 2 ones that will be touted. Who else is available right now that's going to come in and definitely guarantee an improvement and definitely make us better than Lampard right now with this set of players that are out of form and lacking confidence? Because, when players, we've seen it at Chelsea before, they clearly aren't backing the manager. They stop playing football. A new manager comes in and hooray, we're back to normal again. I can't see that happening now, because who do we appoint, and is it going? If you sack a legend like Lampard, you've got to make it no. I don't want to see that guy again. He's retired for a reason. you've got to make sure that if you get rid of him, we got rid of Di Matteo when he just won the Champions League and we managed to turn it around okay. So Chelsea have shown their ruthlessness in the past, but this is a project. Chelsea have backed Lampard. We've spent a lot of money. Now, if you sack him at the first sign of trouble, what is every future Chelsea manager going to do? Oh, you finally said you're going to build a project, and at the first sign of trouble, you sack one of your legends. If I was a manager, I wouldn't manage Chelsea because I'd be thinking anything goes wrong, they're going to sack me. Yes, it's a lovely pay packet, but let's think about football. You know, Guardiola wants to build a legacy. Klopp's built a legacy. It's taken them time. And yes, at times they haven't had it as bad as Lampard's having it right now. But I wouldn't want to take this Chelsea job because, you know, this team's out of form and I struggle to find a way to get them playing. So, yeah, that's kind of my...
No, absolutely, man. Before I go to Jimmy, this was the actual question that I've seen that was coming up in the chat, and I wanted to bring it up before we go to the player sort of quick analysis on them. My thoughts on the whole thing, as I said before I go to Jimmy, is that we need to be quite, I suppose, assured about this in the sense that. Yes, the question is, who do we get after? You know, we got to give someone an opportunity. But I think we need to also sit down and say, well, where is Frank going to really take us? I think that's the first question. Where is Frank actually going to take us? Can he reach the expectations of this season, which we said was to close the gap with City and Liverpool, which is we are far behind them. We are far behind them. It's not even funny. So one needs to assess that first. So if that doesn't happen, then what's the thing? If we don't reach at least top four, then what's the thing? You know, so we need to first address that. Then we can start thinking about, you know, who to get next up. So if we were to address that, I don't think in that sense, Frank is actually taking us in the right direction. I don't think we're closing the gap. We're meant to be closing the gap on the big boys. I don't think we're doing that. And top four, which shouldn't have been the goal this season. I think the goal should have been be in the mix of really pushing the top boys this season, not win the league, but actually be in the mix of it. So I don't think that's the case. So then for me, it's like, well, Frank may not be the right guy. Now, the question is, who do you get? I don't know. There's Tuchel's name that's been thrown around. There's Nigel's name that's been thrown around. There's a whole heap of Allegri that's been thrown around. I don't know. For me, I would like to see Frank change this around. I really would. Up next, we've got the FA Cup game, which against Morecambe, probably not too much that we can read into that. But then we've got Fulham. Then we've got, I think, quite a few good stretch of games. I think we've got Leicester, Wolves, Burnley. Now, yes, they're tough games, but if Frank struggles, I hope he gets I hope he gets a win against Fulham. But Leicester, Wolves, Burnley, 3. If he struggles there, I think, it's going to be lights out for him, whether we like it or not. So, Jimmy, your thoughts, man? I mean, what do you do? Do you get rid of him now, get someone in at the moment? And if you do get someone in, who's in your mind?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer. I mean, the arguments for and against sacking him now imminently or waiting until, well, I think the worst decision that we could make is like sack him at the end of January or something, like after a few games, because then the new manager would have to come in and he would not have the transfer window to maybe get him one player or so that he'd want. So if we are going to sack him, then it'd have to be after today's game. It sounds really, really harsh, and I'm not saying sack him immediately, but it makes sense to do it now or not at all. I mean, the only other choice would be to wait until the end of the season. Yes, that might do some damage. So it doesn't seem as if we're going to get into the top 4 the way we're playing currently. Also, probably not going to get past Atletico Madrid's the way we're playing and the way they are playing. So, where do we go from there? You can make an argument for sacking now. You can make an argument for sticking to him. Maybe he'll get the same reaction as Arteta did. There was also talk of players not playing for him anymore. And the thing is that Chelsea's just a different kind of climate. It's a different kind of club than Arsenal. And, leading on to who to get in, I'm baffled by the amount of people saying Tuchel. And the thing is, Thomas Tuchel, anyone who's watched him since his days at Mainz, and I have, you do not want Thomas Tuchel at this club. People just think, oh, he plays some interesting football, but the man's social skills are non-apparent. This guy constantly clashes with a club's hierarchy. Try that at Chelsea, you're going to get the sack, sooner rather than later. People are so blind. I'm sorry to say this, but people are so blind, just looking. Oh yeah, Thomas Tuchel, great way of playing. He has no quarrel with telling you you're an idiot. At the board, he has no problem with that. He'll always be very vocal about if he has a problem with things, even if there isn't one. He is someone who's very socially awkward. He will clash with your hierarchy, whether you like it or not, and that doesn't work at Chelsea. I think he'd be really good fit at Arsenal because they don't care really that much. He could do whatever he wants there, so that would work maybe. But he would not be a good fit. Maybe initially because he'll get a reaction from the players, and he, compared to Lampard, has a very clear style of play, which is good, But Thomas Tuchel is not my first choice at all. So people saying Allegri, I think that's a step backwards as well from where we're trying to go with this team. I honestly can't tell you who we should get in. One choice that we would have is if you say Julian Nagelsmann, whether he would really want to, do this to himself. But he would be the obvious choice because he has a very, very easy on the eye way of playing. He has brilliant man management skills. He really does. He's young, but he's an exciting coach to have, and he gets along quite well with a board and so on. Yeah, of course, Timo Werner. I don't know if people know this, but Timo Werner was already going to leave Leipzig quite a while ago, but then he heard, oh, Nagelsmann's coming in. I want to stay another year to play under him because this guy is the real deal, and it was arguably his best season yet. So Julian Nagelsmann definitely knows how to get the best out of Timo Werner. Of course, whether you want to get coaching just to get the best out of one player, we can see with Manchester United that doesn't always work. Word being Paul Pogba, but I don't know. I mean, this is a very generic thing to say, but either you sack him now or you don't sack him until the end of the season. That's my point of view here. So probably the latter makes more sense because we really need time to assess who we should be getting in. And Julian Nagelsmann won't leave before the end of the season if we were to get him or target him. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
No, man, I have to agree with you as well. It just, you either get rid of him right now, Frank Lampard. I think there was a really good comment here saying, I think someone said, doesn't he deserve a chance to turn around? Perhaps he does.
Sure.
Perhaps Frank Lampard does deserve a chance. That's
what I was saying. You can make an argument for Mikel Arteta that he's currently turning it around. So why can't Frank Lampard do that? Of course, different circumstances, but I can fully understand that. Just on the side note.
No, absolutely, man. And you're right, Jimmy, and both Jonathan as well. Which manager would actually come in and take it right now? It's such a, first of all, it's not the best time during January to do this. All of the coaches that we've sort of talked about, the managers that we've talked about, besides probably Allegri, which we haven't really gone into. Tuchel, obviously he just got out from PSG, so he would be ready. But in regards to Nagelsmann, which seems to be the fan favorite at the moment, he's not leaving Leipzig right now. Not at this moment where Leipzig is doing so well. Perhaps at the end of the season, but definitely not now. So
he's leaving. He's leaving at the end of the season. Yeah, that's definitive. He is leaving at the end of the season. That's why I said that would make sense then. He's going from Leipzig. He already said that. Nice.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, in that sense, I guess, we just waited out. And as I said, with the fixtures that we've got coming up, I mean, we got to give Frank an opportunity to turn this around. And if he doesn't, I think that's going to be curtains. Anyway, guys, we've talked a lot about Frank Lampard. We've talked a lot about, in and out and whatnot. Let's just quickly go through the player analysis and wrap things up over here. Let's go from the top, boys. I'll just point on each player, different players to each of you guys. Jimmy, just quickly, Timo Werner, your thoughts?
tried hard, but not hard enough. You know, low on confidence. What much is there to say? You know, there's a play in there. I love his attitude. He's a fantastic guy, and I'm sure we'll still see much better times in the future from him. But you know, at the moment, not good enough. Didn't get into scoring opportunities where he should have. So you know, very below par.
No, I have to agree as well. Jonathan, Pulisic.
I think he tried. He did try come centrally at times. He went right. He was certainly helped by Hudson-Odoi because there was a bit more movement. Because I say Ziyech was definitely not match sharp. Yeah, tried is what I could say, but didn't manage to affect the game in the way we'd want him to. But I'm not going to pin that all on him because everyone was below par today.
No, for sure, man. I'll take Ziyech. For me, Ziyech, probably the first 10 minutes. After that, there was no Ziyech. And hindsight, I don't know if he should have started. I know hindsight's a bit of a, you know, not the best way to look at things, but, you know, Frank should know it. Frank should know that whether a player is fit enough or not. But I don't know. It looked like he was just fit for the first 10 minutes. And Callum Hudson-Odoi, when he came on, he looked electric. So question marks on Callum as well, the way he, you know, what he's thinking as well in this particular setup. Jimmy, Kante.
Dreadful. That was by far the worst performance I've seen from him for a very long time. And, you know, we were talking before, I think Jonathan said that, you know, that pass that led to the, eventually led to the goal. Yeah, I fully understand why you'd say, you know, there was still quite a bit of time that lapsed between that, so you can't just completely pin it on him. But a player of his caliber, you'd expect to not immediately pass to the opponent. So it's a bit difficult, of course, and you have to cut him a bit of slack because he was like the only one trying to hold together that entire midfield because the other two were unapparent. So, I mean, a fail, you know, F. If you're going to give him a grade, it was a fail, nevertheless, and he is suspended for the next game because of that yellow card. So maybe he needs that. He's been playing for years throughout, so I don't know. But generally, not good enough today.
No, true, man, true. Jonathan, I want you to tackle both Mount and Kovacic. For me, both were poor. Both were poor. Kovacic, I don't think he even tried. I think, and this might be a bit of a bad take, and I do apologize if everyone takes this in a negative way. I think he's down tools on Frank Lampard, Kovacic. That performance today made me feel like he's probably the first one that probably said, "See you later, Frank. I don't want anything to do with you because I don't like the style or whatever." Because that performance was not good from Kovacic one bit. His passing was bad. There was no drive. He got dispossessed like a little kid. And Mason Mount wasn't good, but at least you can say with Mason, he works hard. He tries to give his best. But, yeah, your thoughts on both Mason Mount and Kovacic?
So I sat on Kante before I sat on them two. Said it before. I'll continue saying it. Can't play as a DM in every single game. Needs support against the big teams when they have someone in the hole as a number 10 because he struggles to mark. And he doesn't... There was Sterling run rings around him at one point. He tried to foul him and Sterling took it on and then he did foul him, Kante. So, yeah, I'm not going to pin it all. But when in that third goal, when you're the last man back and then you make a silly pass like that, that's just... It's inconceivable. Can't do that. But yeah, I don't think it's all him. I think he does need support. And Mount and Kovacic didn't give him any of that today. We're lacking a goal-scoring midfielder, which is something, you know, Lampard knows all about. Kovacic, all I hear about is press resistant. Well, so many times today. That was
all those fancy words: press resistant, register.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I made a jokey video saying about crossing inshallah, but we didn't do that today. Press resistant, we didn't do that today. So Kovacic, it wasn't his best game, but he has been a good performer for the last sort of 18 months. But yeah, that's why I would have played Gilmour because I felt we needed a bit more control on the ball, and that is why. You know, Kovacic just wasn't at the races today. And Mount, as you say, he tried, but I wasn't really sure what he was there to do today. Was he there to defend? Was he there to hold the ball? Was he there to attack? Because he didn't do anything well.
He was schooled by the Man City midfielder. He was absolutely.
And this is why we need the 5 sub rule because then you could have changed half the team today. Maybe it would have made a little bit of a difference.
If he'd done that.
If he'd done that.
Use a sub.
That's true. And I get why Havertz came on as a sub, but Giroud's got to come on instead as well. So, yeah, Mount and Kovacic not great today, but I think the whole midfield was poor, and that was what led to us being embarrassed.
Absolutely, man. Jimmy, let's talk about the two fullbacks, Chilwell and Azpilicueta. For me, Azpilicueta, he's getting old, but absolutely torn apart by Foden, and Chilwell as well, exposed like an open wound. Honestly, he was exposed so many times on that left side when he bombed up. Your thoughts on Chilwell and Azpilicueta?
There's not much to add to that. I mean, not good. They got constantly burnt by those pacey Man City attacking players. I don't think that Reece James would have done much of a better job defensively.
I don't think so. I don't think so either.
You're not going to pin it on Azpilicueta. He's been a great servant to the club, and he did the utmost. He did everything that he could. He would be the last player I'd pin it on to say he down-tooled or that he held back or something like that. He gave it his all. It was just wasn't good enough. And Ben Chilwell, he tried going forward, but I don't know whether it was down to tactics or not, but just crossing the ball in aimlessly, didn't do anyone any good. So he lost the ball on too many occasions. Just, at best, a D, Azpilicueta just wasn't good enough. But he'll be the first to say that. And one thing that I have to say here as well, if we're going to take this into account, captain, at half-time, he was discussing with the referee, for Christ's sake, no. Shout at your own players. Don't discuss with the referee. He was really, sure, we could have had a penalty there, or a free kick on the edge of the box. But he was the last person we should be faulting here. Yeah. So just had to add that because I just remembered that, and that was ridiculous.
No, absolutely.
So, not good enough. Say it again.
Referee was not the issue this match. Let's get one thing right. Referee's not the issue. If anyone out there, and I'm pretty sure in social media, a lot of people will be focusing on that particular tackle from Rodri, which honestly I didn't think was a penalty situation. I thought it was he generally won the ball, but that's up for discussion. But that wouldn't have changed the game at all, as you said, Jimmy. Jonathan, our two boys centre backs, Silva and Zuma. Zuma, I don't think he was that great with the ball, without the ball, and Silva, I think pace absolutely did him as well today. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think pace caught all four defenders out, and I'm not going to blame Chilwell too much because having Sterling run at you ain't very easy, and Azpilicueta's not the paciest, so to have Foden, who was willing to turn him inside and out, was always going to be difficult. But yeah, the two centre backs, to look after a makeshift centre forward, they didn't do it well enough. They didn't step out to meet him enough. They didn't ask the midfield to come back and help. I say pace just did them both today, and they were pressed so many times, and we looked really, really shaky on the ball when we were passing it around at the back. Whereas every time City got on the ball, they just looked calm, collected, and I'd say they changed the tempo whenever they wanted to. And our defence, it took so long sometimes to get it out into the midfield, and then they're pressed. Maybe today we should have just bypassed the midfield because it was non-existent. Maybe we should have gone long, and we didn't do that at all today.
Go long to who though?
Well, try and put it in behind to Werner, who, isn't full of confidence, but just try something different because, we've seen that 3-4 times a game. We normally see a long pass on Silva or Zuma. I didn't see any of that. Over to Ziyech or switch it out to Pulisic, nothing. It was just too passive. I'm not going to blame everything on the two centre-backs because, wasn't impressed by anyone today.
No, absolutely, man. I'll take Mendy. For me, Mendy, I don't know, maybe he could have done something in the first shot, but then again, it was great movement. It was so quick. The shot just was a snapshot. So I don't know how much Mendy he did. He did get something. Couldn't save it. Not much he could have done for the second one, which was a nice finish from Foden. And the third one, well, Kante really left him for dry for the third one. And then in the second half, there was some really good saves from Mendy. So, look, not much to say about Mendy. Just quickly with the subs, Jimmy, I know we talked about it, but let's just have a quick analysis on Callum Hudson-Odoi. Your thoughts? Was he sort of lived up to your expectation for this particular outing, I suppose?
I would expect that any Chelsea fan would say he did well today. He was one of the very few bright sparks and he was actually able to do something. His footwork was brilliant. He was taking on Man City players. Okay, yes, they were down tooling already a bit. You know, the foot off the pedal. Torres said that already quite a few times today. But still, you know, he tried and he was rewarded lastly. So if he doesn't start against Fulham, then, you know, I don't know.
He needs to go. He needs to
go. Did nothing to warrant him starting next game.
Yeah.
So, you know, provided the FA Cup doesn't go ahead next game, Callum Hudson-Odoi has to start. He was the only Chelsea player where I'd say he can get off the pitch and be proud of himself, because he did well. He should have come on far earlier. He should have started, basically. So good performance. The only one brave enough to take on his men, didn't lose the ball constantly, and was clinical when called upon. So good performance.
Agreed. And you're right, Jimmy. If he doesn't start against Fulham, pandemonium. Jonathan, the last two I'll let you. Chelsea Twitter, pandemonium. Havertz and Billy Gilmore. Jonathan, your thoughts?
Always going to be hard for Gilmore to affect the game, as I said earlier. But yeah, I do want to see more of him. Havertz, okay, great assist. It's hard for him to affect the game as well. It's really hard to judge because it was a nothing game by the time they came on. The game was finished, and to judge them on that performance, negative or positively, would be harsh. So yeah, I just wish it would have been earlier. I keep complaining. As I say, I sound like a broken record. But I need to see something more from the players and Lampard, because I don't mind if you lose a game, if we drop points, but if we don't have the right attitude, if we don't have the right intensity, and we don't have the right, I keep talking about mentality, but that's the most disappointing thing, and the subs are too late. So
no, spot on, man. That pretty much wraps up our review. We'll just take a couple of quick questions here. Just before we wrap things up, there was a question here talking about playing on Mirror. Why does Ziyech start today? We'll go with Jimmy on this one, man.
Good question. I don't know. I can't answer it. The only thing that I could come up with is that it leads back to Frank Lampard saying that he chooses players on merit, but he doesn't. You know, he definitely has these new boys that came in on his A list. I can understand that he's trying to build up some momentum with these new players to make them gel more quickly, but you know, we're past that point. Ship sailed, so you have to look at it and say, I don't know, because any armchair manager would be saying Callum Hudson-Odoi should have to have started today. And you know, maybe I'd hope Lampard thinks the same in hindsight, but he shouldn't have started. That's the only answer I can give.
No, 100%, and I actually have no other reason as well. As Frank always says, if you train hard enough, you're going to start, and so on and so forth. I'm sure. I mean, how hard could have Ziyech trained, knowing that he just came back from injury? But question for you, Jonathan: should we use 5-3-2 now to improve, or 3-5-2 from data?
We want to be an attacking team. We've got so much talent. We've spent so much money on the attacking players. I think 4 is enough. Our defence should be good enough with 4 and a competent keeper. And we need to have more players to affect the final part of the pitch. And is Chilwell and James, are they going to be fantastic right wing backs and left wing backs? I think they can be more than adequate at left back and right back. And who's then the third centre back if you play that? Because Azpilicueta, we've seen him play there, but I don't think we need that much defensive stability, because that's just going to increase our emphasis on crosses if you have 2 wing backs. So I just think 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 is more than enough for Lampard to use. If you rotate between the two, between games, in game. I just don't like I know it's not always defensive, but the defensive look of those. You know, every big team in the Premier League, other than when Conte won it for us, hasn't adopted that, and it's nice to switch to on the odd occasion, but to set up that as an actual formation, nah.
Nah, man, nah, absolutely. Let's wrap this up. My son is up as well. It's very early in the morning, 6:44. He's saying lollipop, lollipop. He wants lollipop. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. He's crying at the background. We're going to end it here. Thanks for everyone that's joining on, and to Jimmy and Jonathan as well. Thanks for being here. Until next time, see ya.